Hi guys, it's Charlotte here, also known as Lottie the Irish Witch, but might as well be a bit formal because this is a episode. Well, it's not even an episode, it's just a video. But in the background, I'm going to be playing some Minecraft, so enjoy watching me build something. I think I'm building a factory or something for my Java factory, like thing using the mod pack, whatever. That'll be a different video. I'm just talking over this to talk about something very important to me, which is trans rights. I am, for anybody who doesn't know, a transgender woman. I was assigned male at birth, and I have to, I after 27 years are struggling with my gender and struggling with dysphoria and, things like that. I'm somewhat in an okay place in myself. Last year, I had gender reassignment surgery. I'm not going to go too much into detail about that, but the thing I was born with, I no longer have. I have got something completely different now. And I know that people who are anti-trans, I'm not going to call them the word, but let's just say the mustachioed man from the 30s would be friends with them. Not going to say anything else. They'll say something like, but you still have a penis, it's just been turned inside out. That's actually not true. The skin is turned inside out and turned into the... I'm trying to be cryptic, but, not explain too much, but the skin's turned inside out. All the stuff that makes a penis, or strongest shape as RCU would say, is gone. It's in a bin in Thailand somewhere, or it was eaten by some Thai person. I don't know what they do with the bits that they cut out. But them things are gone. They're disappeared. I have no way of reproducing at all. I've got no sperm, no eggs. That's it. But what I do have is a vagina, which comes onto the debate that's going around these days about trans women. Like, I've never once got into a bathroom wanting to do anything other than pee and poo. But can't really speak for everybody, can we? All I know is that the issue that I've had mainly is being harassed by cis men. But that's another thing completely. I keep going on to tangents, but I am getting to a point. So the point of this video is I want to talk about my transition. What started it, how old was I when I started questioning things, and the future. So I am 27, as I mentioned. Last year I had gender reassignment surgery on the 23rd of September. I've got a lovely tattoo to commemorate that. And in July, I had vocal feminization surgery. Every so often, when I talk a lot, my voice kind of goes down a pitch, but it always stays around this. My voice used to be a lot deeper. If anybody remembers my older videos, they will know exactly what I'm talking about. My voice is so much better now. This is a good coffee. I'm currently drinking a coffee, so I apologize if you hear me putting my cup up and down. So yeah, that's that. Before we go on to the past and talking about what led me to this point now, let's talk about the future. Surgery-wise, I'm good. I'm golden. I might want to have breast augmentation at some point, But I need to wait another few years and see what hormones do to my breasts. But that's just what can I say? That's that. That's just whatever. Let's go back into the past. So I started questioning my gender when I was 6 years old, maybe seven, and I used to go to my grandma's house, and she had a pair of ballet shoes. And ballet is not only for just for girls, it is for boys as well. But these were women's ballet shoes, and I felt comfortable wearing them. And I always imagined myself wearing women's clothes. And that ended up leading to me experimenting a bit and, getting to the point where I I wore women's clothes under the boys' clothes. And I was comfortable. And I was more comfortable wearing the women's clothes than I were wearing the boys' clothes. Now, clothes are gender neutral, but this is just the point of the story. All my friends never call me by my dead name. None of them call me by my dead name. I'm not even going to say my dead name because I hate it that much. All my friends used to call me either Red, because my gamer tag was Red Fire Gamer, or they called me Charlotte, because that was the name of my D&D character, and my D&D friends, they all refer to me as either Hey DM or Hey Charlotte, and that's when that name kind of stuck. I think I was like 15 or 16 or something, and that name just was, I was like, always in the back of my head. And when I started playing 5M, which I do every so often, I chose the name Charlotte because I was like, it's a name that I like, it's a name that I find cool, so let me use that. When I was 15, I went in the UK where I live. There's something called the Child, Adolescent Mental Health Service, CAMS, and I was under them for my mental health. And I went to my doctor and I said, "Hey, look, I think I'm the wrong gender." They said they were going to, explain to me stuff that could be done. They never did. And that goes on to another thing about mental health and mental health being useless in this country. But it led to the point where I ended up trying to take my own life when I was 16, and I went to the hospital. I was living at my grandparents' at the time. It ended up causing a massive argument with my grandparents. I went to the hospital and I explained to this doctor in the hospital about my gender, and he was like, "Well, I can help you through this." And then, yes, again, referred me for a mental health service that didn't do anything. Enough shitting about the mental health service in the UK. They suck. Um, it ended up causing a lot of turmoil at home. I ended up going back to live with. I'm not going to say anything. Just cause there's two people who they really never supported me, and they're nothing to me. They're literally nothing. They're a piece of shit at the bottom of a shoe for all I care. And this video isn't about them. This is about me. So I ended up moving out when I was 18, living on my own, and I finally decided I was going to transition. And yeah, I ended up transitioning, and it was somewhat okay. I ended up changing the name that I was going to use because originally it was going to be Charlotte, but I thought no, I was like, that's the name that I use for a character, and that's the name I use for a D&D thing. I don't want to have that be my actual name. So I ended up using the name Lydia Eve, and I hate it. Partly because I dated somebody called Lydia who just kind of ruined that name for me. but partly because it never suited me. It just never worked for me. However, my name now does work for me and it does suit me. I ended up transitioning for about a year and a half, and then I met an ex that I'm not going to name them, but I am just going to say I'm going to call them F, just for the sake of it. F didn't like that I was trans, and they forced me to do transition. They forced me to grow my hair out. I mean, not grow my hair. They forced me to cut my hair and grow my beard out. They forced me to use my dead name, which I hated. And they basically made my life a living nightmare, and I was so depressed. They did something to me that I'm not going to say on YouTube, but it starts with an R, and it's something that I didn't give consent to. Deal with that information as you will. I got very, very upset, and I tried to commit forever sleep several times during that time. And at one point, um, she set my hair on fire, and and I snapped. And finally, I gave her the ultimatum of I'm trans. You can either like it or there's the door. You can fuck off. And then I was free. This was this was 2024. So on the outside, I looked like a man, but on the inside, I wasn't. And it at the same time, my granddad he got diagnosed with cancer and he passed away that year. He literally got diagnosed in April and died 2 months later. And I waited until after he died to actually come out as trans again, just because he wouldn't have been okay with me being trans. He really wouldn't have, and I wanted things to not be stressful for my family, especially during the time that my granddad was ill. So it was about a couple of weeks after he passed, and his funeral came around, and it was after his funeral that I decided that that was it. I can't wait any longer. And I text my nan and I was like, hey, look, I need to tell you something. Can you ring me? And I ended up talking to her on the phone and explaining to her that I felt like I was in the wrong body. And surprisingly, her answer was, I've always wanted a granddaughter. I wasn't expecting it. I was expecting something a lot worse, but I am 100% glad that that's how it ended up going instead of what I was thinking in my head, because I was thinking that it wasn't going to end up good. Unfortunately, things with all of my family now is kind of like done. Some of them were because of being transphobic. Some of them were just because I didn't talk to some members of the family and they didn't want to talk to me if I didn't talk to them members of the family. And with some, it was political ideologies, which causes a massive argument. And as somebody who is very, very pro trans rights, anti right wing, it didn't work when most of my family were right wing, and I'm very much not right wing. So that's by the by. So after transitioning, I saved up some money with a tiny little loan from my Nanan. My screen's just gone blank. Where's my screen gone blank? Oh, there we go. It's back. A tiny little loan from my nanan, and I paid for vocal surgery. At that time, I had met somebody who for their just to keep their identity, I'm gonna not say their name, but it's another trans woman who also had issues with the parts that they were born with. So we ended up talking and talking, and we ended up dating. And then after saving up money, I'm not gonna say how much it was. It wasn't as expensive as it would have been in the UK. We decided to go to Thailand last year. So we went to Thailand September last year, 25. And on the 23rd of September 2025, I had gender reassignment surgery. And it's stupid. I was in Thailand for 20 days. Most of the time I was in the hotel room recovering. They had us in this clinic. I'll talk. You know what? We've got time. I'll talk about the time in Thailand. So, we we went to Thailand, and we got there on the Saturday. My surgery was on the Tuesday. We got there on the Saturday. The entire of it was about 2 p.m. on Saturday. The entire Saturday, Sunday, we were recovering from jet lag. It was terrible. We went out for a nice meal in this place near the hotel. That was probably the nicest food I'd ever had, and it was like this small little. It looked like a cafe, but it was open till 2 a.m. in the morning, and it's where all the like students and the locals went, so you could tell it's a good place. Ended up drinking a lot of bottled water because you don't trust the tap water in Bangkok, which that's by the by. The entire Monday spent the entire time with the clinic, basically having pre-op assessments, blood tests, ECGs, blood pressure, X-rays, and then it got to about 2 p.m. Monday, and we got back to the hotel, and they text me, the manager, the nurse manager, whatever she's called, saying we're gonna pick you up at 4 o'clock. You're gonna spend the night in the clinic to wake up, and you'll be having your surgery early in the morning. It'll be like 6 a.m. So I was like, okay, and I ended up going to the clinic. They ended up doing more pre-op stuff, including an enema, which was absolutely horrendous. I hated it, but it was not pleasant. And yeah, went to sleep around about 10 p.m. Woke up at about 5 a.m. and was sat waiting. And then they came in, took me in for surgery. I woke up about 8 hours later, put my hands in between my legs, and I cried with happiness and relief that the thing was finally gone. Spent 4 or 5 days in the clinic, and then went to the hotel for the rest of the time. In that entire time that I was in Bangkok, I didn't get a single picture of Bangkok itself. I've got some pictures of Bangkok. I've got pictures of the plane flying back from Frankfurt, because we had to get a layover from Manchester to Frankfurt and then Frankfurt to Thailand, and then it was the same back. So apart from like that, I have a picture of the breakfast that I had one morning in the continental buffet breakfast thing they had. I've got a picture of myself in an elevator, and I've got a picture of me laying in the bed having surgery, and a lot of surgery pics, which I'm not going to show here. They're too gruesome. And it was most definitely a weird thing. I was there, and all I have to remember my time in Thailand is some Thai bath in my purse, which is I find very amusing. So recovering from surgery, we came home on the 10th of October. So it was just in time for Halloween, and I was thinking, I want to go out drinking. I wasn't allowed to go out drinking, so Halloween was ruined. I couldn't walk anyway. It was too painful to walk anywhere. It wasn't until like December that I was able to walk around the supermarket and do my shopping. Christmas came around, January came around, my 27th birthday came around, and here we are today. So, in the future, I'm probably gonna have breast augmentation. I might get a revision on my vaginoplasty. Not because anything's awfully wrong, but because it doesn't look exactly how I wanted it to look. Like, it looks good, but it doesn't look fantastic. So that's not anything that I'm gonna worry about for now. Anyway, I need to focus on losing a bit more weight because I in when I was with my ex F, I ended up gaining a lot of weight. I've lost a bunch of weight since then, but I need to lose a bit more because HRT isn't working as effectively because the estrogen is going to my belly instead of to the places where the feminine hormones should be going to, like my boobs, my thighs, my bum. More of it's getting absorbed by my belly, which I want that smaller. I am focusing on losing weight. It's just taking a bit of sweet ass time. Now, what is the point of making this video? The point is that I want, because I notice that a lot of people who are anti-trans don't tend to talk to trans people. If people actually sat and talked to us, they might understand that dysphoria isn't a mental illness. I mean, yeah, it's bad. It makes you feel awful. Dysphoria and dysmorphia fucking sucks. But it's not a mental illness. What's a mental illness is having EUPD/BPD. Well, that's a disorder, which I also have due to childhood trauma and PTSD. I have got EUPD, which means I push people away. But being trans isn't a disorder. I've always been a woman stuck in the wrong body. And I've noticed myself after being forced to live as a man when I was so depressed that I was hurting myself every day. I was in the hospital several times a month for trying to take my own. Mm, that's since having these surgeries and since actually being able to live myself, apart from one attempt at, which I'm not going to say, which was because of something completely unrelated, my mental health has actually got better. Because I am actually able to live my truth. I'm able to walk around and feel comfortable in my skin. I'm able to be myself. Now, obviously, I still have issues in my head, but the issues are mainly due to body image. It's looking at my belly and thinking that's a bit too big, I don't like it, or my boobs aren't big enough. Which, if you think about it, is like the most woman thing ever. It's the most girl thing ever. Every single woman has that thought in their head at some point in their life that, oh god, my boobs aren't big enough, my hips aren't wide enough, my belly's too big. I think we're living in a world right now where the climate tends to be trying to reach and attack people like me, when in fact we are human. It doesn't help that the news that tends to be the loudest tends to be the most politically incorrect. And what I mean by that is maybe instead of just jumping to conclusions and hating on a oppressed minority such as trans people, black people, people who are gay, maybe do the research. Look at the numbers. There was a study done in the UK to see how many people have issues with trans women going into women's bathrooms. Since 2010, there has been 3 complaints. In 16 years, 3 complaints. Compare that to the number of cis white men. That that number I wouldn't even know because I've not looked, but I'm assuming it's definitely a lot higher than 3. It's like with this most recent school shooting in I think it's Canada, or it's either America or Canada, where it's a trans person who shot some people. Not all trans people are like that. This person had serious mental issues, and it wasn't because of them being trans. It was probably due to being harassed and bullied and marginalised so much that forced that person to snap. Now, I'm not saying that this person's innocent. I think it's absolutely awful that this person felt like they needed to do that and then take their own life. But if you look at the numbers, the amount of trans shooters there have been in America in the past, I think it's like 20 years or something, is 4. Compared to the hundreds of cis white men. Which the numbers don't lie. And when you get people that try to say, oh, trans people are always the issue, just turn around to that person and say, where's your proof? Where is your evidence? Look at the numbers. Look at the statistics. I can say as a trans person that I have been discriminated against more being trans than before I transitioned. I had issues before I transitioned. I was beaten up and assaulted for being bisexual, but that was that. But I have noticed since coming out as trans, the assault has got worse. Since having surgery, the assault has got worse. I've been spat at in the street. I've been beaten in the street. I've had people follow me into the bathroom in public places. I've heard so many horrible comments and nasty remarks. And the word that starts with an R, which I'm not going to say, the one that is spelled R-A-P, I'm not going to finish that. I have had that happen to me more than 5 times in the past year and a half. Twice since having surgery. And all the times that that's happened to me, it was always a man that did it. Somebody who is cisgendered. Now, I know what the comments are going to be like in this video below, so I'm not going to have comments on. I know that I'm probably going to get some hate for actually telling my story on YouTube, and I'm at the point now where I don't care because I feel like there's not enough trans people saying their story. There's not enough trans people, you know, giving out their story. I am going to be releasing another video talking about surgery, recovery, and other things in the future. But for now, I'm going to leave this video here. I might go more in depth in my transition and my story in the future. But all I can say for the rest of this video is just we need a bit more peace. We need a bit more love and compassion in this world. There's enough evil going on at the tops of power and at the heads of governments that we don't need any evil below. You're looking at the wrong 1% if you think the trans people are the issues. Goodbye.